Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to this week's podcast on conversation regarding social media and how that resides in the minds of those who practice shamanic work.
I've heard that some people imagine that shamanic practitioners, being very earth-based, do not watch television or use the internet or other means of communication that are electronic and very fast, as well as accessible worldwide. What is the truth of this?
The truth is that there are certainly shamanic practitioners that I know of personally here in North America as well as Europe who do not watch TV, do not have a computer, do not have a phone, do not have any of those kinds of devices and avoid electronics completely. They are certainly in the minority. They have their belief. I respect their belief. It's about their feeling that they cannot be in harmony with the natural world if they allow themselves to go to this, more global electronic kind of place. The truth is, however, that, we do live in a very global environment, and communication with others has become a way of being. And so in order to reach people who are outside of the community in which a shamanic practitioner might have some influence in the way of helping educate people about the ways of the shaman or shamanic energy, or, even through things like this podcast. Most practitioners that I know do watch a certain amount of TV. They may not watch the news. A lot of people don't watch the news because they don't want to get cranked up by what the media is putting out there in the way of information. Rather, they would read, more reliable, well thought out news. A lot of people just watch public TV or listen to public radio, where there's a more balanced report on things for the most part. However, the reality is we are living in an age where, the computer and the telephone have become, in a way, the new drum. If we look back again at ancient times, the peoples communicated with each other through sound, through, drumming messages back and forth from one tribal group to another. They would gather by, somebody putting out a drum call, and that would be for everybody in the community to come together because this is the time, we're doing this now. And so, if you look at it from the perspective of the computer and the phone being like the new drum, they're a way of saying, okay, here I am, and let's talk here. Let's communicate through voice, through visual, and through a way of bringing the community together. And when we use those tools, when we use the internet and we use the telephone and we use television to some extent for the purpose of education and of also calling the community together, then it has a much higher purpose. And, I certainly know a lot of people, myself included, who, bless their electronic devices, have crystals around them to, try to neutralize the electronic energy that is being transmitted from those devices. Those are all really good things to do. Yes, and I'm seeing Jill as I speak. Jill is showing me her crystals that she has right near her computer as we use our computers to see each other and to have this conversation for the podcast. That's what we do. It is important to do. And yet it doesn't mean that we run the other way and we don't use those devices at all, in my opinion. And again, I have complete respect for those who choose not to do that, whether they're on a shamanic path or otherwise. You know, I have a friend who's currently, you know, detaching herself from the exterior world in a what I would consider a pretty extreme way. It would not be what I would want to do, but it is who she is and what she wants to do. She's going and moving into a cabin where there is, you know, no electricity, no heat other than, you know, from a wood stove, no lights, no plumbing, and that's where she's going to live for the duration of her life. And, you know, she can get there. She can get to town, but she has to paddle across the lake or walk across the ice in the wintertime. Because that's who she is. That's how she wants to live her life. That's how she wants to communicate. That's how she wants to spread goodness on the earth and feed her own soul. And I respect that. But that is not the path of all people. And it is certainly not the path of what I would say is the vast majority of shamanic practitioners in our modern times.
So you started to answer this next question already. A listener asked, how can a person who is truly devoted to living in harmony with all beings use social media and still be in harmony with nature? After all, electronics require electricity, handheld devices or computers, and time on the part of the user spent away from nature.
Mm-hmm. Great observation and great question. It is what I would call a bit of a slippery slope, because electronics can be pretty enticing and also addictive. And so it is imperative for for somebody who's on a spiritual path, whether it's a shamanic path or, you know, a Buddhist path or a Hindu path or whatever, that if they're going to utilize electronic devices, mobile phones and iPads and computers and all of the other electronics that are available to us, that they make it a discipline in their life to make sure that they balance that time with time in nature. Time to, you know, at this time of the year here in the northeastern part of the United States, the migratory birds are back. And, you know, spend time out there just listening to the birds sing. Go put your hands on a tree. Pay attention to what's happening with the budding of the leaves in the trees. Watch the squirrels chase after the bird seed you put outside. Be outdoors. Go sit by the water. Be in the water. Go look at the sun. Honor the full moon. Do all of those things. As long as a person is making sure that they find balance around all of this, then I trust and believe that they can maintain that harmony and still utilize the tools that we have available to us to communicate with our village, which is the globe, the world.
What social media sites are particularly helpful or informative for those who are seeking justice? Do any spreading information regarding social action, do any of them spread that is of interest to those who are on a shamanic path?
Yes, there are a lot of you know, distorted things that go on the internet and on social media sites such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those other possibilities. I don't even know what they all are. And one can get, you know, dragged into all kinds of places and sites where there is a lot of distortion and misuse of power and, you know, sexual predatory kind of things. but there is also on the other side an amazing number of private Facebook pages or other Facebook pages that or Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts that are propagating the world with amazing images, with powerful healing words and energy, and that create the balance to the more harmful things that can happen using social media. So there are, people are using social media for the propagation of wonderful, beautiful, harmonious things. For instance, Sandra Ingerman uses social media for transmitting her monthly newsletter called Transmutation News, which is about people around the globe coming together at the full moon and intentionally creating a web of light and love for the purpose of healing the planet. And so there's no way that she or I or anybody else could reach out to the global community unless we had those kinds of electronic means to do that. For instance, in my own practice, I maintain some private Facebook pages for the sake of communicating with my students. And we have a way then of sharing photos, of sharing information that we receive from journeys, sharing good news about things that have transpired for us, a lot of image sharing of beautiful nature. All those things fill the airwaves, fill the universal grid with beauty and power and harmony. And so in that sense, I would say that there are a tremendous number of ways that social media is being used for the enhancement of goodness, light, harmony, balance, love, spiritual power, and a promotion of conscious well-being.
As you're talking, I'm remembering when you first taught me to do a shamanic journey, one of the primary things you said was look around and see where you are,
Mm-hmm.
understand which reality you're in. Mm-hmm. If you need a guide, what kind of tools, what are you experiencing? And the internet and social media is a virtual world.
Yes.
And some of it is high, and some of it is middle, and some of it is low.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. so being a conscious user of social media, of the internet, even of your computing, to know where you are. If you're suddenly feeling uneasy, you may be in a virtual lower world.
Mm-hmm.
And you may want to shift where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I would say, though, that you would be in a virtual middle world, which is where there is a lot of,
Okay.
Negative static energy. Yes, that is absolutely true. That's a great visual
analogy.
way of analogy. Absolutely. Yeah, and because one can get dragged into, something that is not in a good vibration. Certainly, it happens with me. I find myself sometimes responding to something that I later wish I hadn't, because it dragged me into something I really didn't want to get into. And the awareness that one has done that, and then stepping back into, that higher vibration, that's critical. Well, thank you for pointing that out. That's a great analogy.
So how do you personally use social media, Dory, and why?
Well, as I said in the prior question, I do use social media for the sake of communicating with my students. I have a private Facebook page that is that anybody who's been a former student of mine who has, completed one of the advanced programs can participate in. And we share lots of information on that Facebook page that is not privy to the outside world. And again, as I said, we use that for sharing photos and inspiration and ask each other questions. And it's really, it's used a lot, and I really feel very good about that. And then I also create other Facebook pages that are for my current students as another means of communicating with, for instance, the students who are in my current apprenticeship program. So we have this closed group, and it's an easy way for us to communicate with each other. I use social media also for myself for educational purposes. There are a lot of amazing sites that are educational around what's happening in the natural world, and the astounding imagery that is available around the most minute aspects of nature that we would not be able to observe with our own human eyes, because we don't have the capacity to go to that part of the world or to see what somebody else is sharing for us. You know, for instance, just last night, I saw this amazing, just short video. I don't typically watch long videos, because I don't have that kind of time to devote to it. I might save it and, you know, watch it later. But there was this very short video of a peeper, which for those people who don't live in the northern part of the United States, peepers are like these, the newborn frogs, for the most part, tree frogs. And they make this amazing peeping sound. And I've never actually observed a peeper up close. And so this was a very short video of a peeper making sound. And this minute thing, like less than an inch long, can make this amazing vibrational sound out in the world. And watching it, being able to watch it do it, and being caught up in the magic of that was, you know, what an amazing gift. And so when one focuses their use of social media around those kinds of things, then I believe they're tapping into, you know, feeding their own heart, allowing themselves to see, oh my God, there's all this stuff out here that is negative. There's the violence, there's ignorance. And yet look at this. Look at this amazing beauty, this magic that is happening here, which can take us back to, yes, this is what really matters. This is what's important. This is the beauty and the power and the love that I want to emulate out in the world. And so in that way, social media is, I believe, a really powerful, heartfelt soul place that one can go to. And it's how I like to use it. Communication and inspiration.
It reminds me of when you were talking about conscious spending
Mm-hmm.
and being careful where you're putting your energy, or conscious of it.
Yes.
This is conscious spending of time.
Absolutely. That is a really good point, Jill. It is about conscious spending of time, not getting caught up in a lot of the negative stuff, the brouhaha stuff, the I'm right, you're wrong kind of stuff, which can happen on social. It happens a lot on social media. That's not what I'm attracted to. It's not where I want to go. Try to stay in the beauty. Try to stay in the stuff that's inspirational, and use it for communicating with your peers. And then you're using it in a really beneficial way for yourself and ultimately for all beings. Because if, you know, last night before I went to bed, watching that little peeper just filled my heart with beauty and love, and that's the energy that I went to sleep with. And I believe that through that vibration goes out into the world and feeds more beauty and love.
This completes our question on social media and on the whole topic of shamanism and social action. Is there anything you want to add at this time?
No, thank you, Jill. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate your contribution, and I'll look forward to our next topic in the future.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.